Dear friend, have you ever felt like you're stuck in a desert, dry, alone, and unsure of what's next? Maybe you're in a season where nothing seems to be working, your dreams feel delayed, your prayers seem unanswered, and you're wondering if God has forgotten you. If that's you, this video is for you. A few years ago, I went through a season that felt like a never-ending desert. I lost my job, my relationships were strained, and I felt completely lost. But looking back, I can see how God used that time to prepare me for the work I'm doing today. That's why I'm so passionate about sharing this message with you. In this video, we're going to talk about how God uses our desert experiences to prepare us for greater work. I hope you'll feel encouraged and reminded that your struggles are not in vain. The desert as a place of transformation. The imagery of the desert is deeply rooted in spiritual traditions, particularly in the Bible. The desert is a place of testing and transformation, where individuals are stripped of distractions and forced to rely entirely on God. Consider the story of the Israelites who wandered the desert for 40 years before entering the Promised Land. Though their journey was fraught with challenges, it was in the desert that they learned to trust God, depend on His provision, and grow into a nation ready to fulfill His promises. Similarly, Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness, fasting and being tempted by the devil. This desert experience was not a punishment, but a preparation for His ministry. It was in the wilderness that Jesus demonstrated His unwavering commitment to God and emerged ready to fulfill His purpose. Your desert experience may not look like a literal wilderness, but it can feel just as isolating and challenging. It might be a season of unemployment, a broken relationship, a health crisis, or a period of spiritual dryness. In these moments, it's easy to feel abandoned or to question why God would allow such hardship. But the truth is, the desert is not a place of abandonment. It's a place of divine encounter. It's where God meets us in our vulnerability and teaches us lessons that can only be learned in the barren places. Lessons learned in the desert: dependence on God. In the desert, resources are scarce and self-reliance is stripped away. This forces us to depend entirely on God for our needs. When the Israelites were in the wilderness, God provided manna from heaven and water from a rock. These miracles were reminders that He is our ultimate provider. In your desert experience, you may find that God is teaching you to trust Him in ways you never have before. When everything else is stripped away, you discover that He is enough. Refinement of character. The desert is a refining fire, burning away impurities and shaping us into who we are meant to be. Just as gold is purified through intense heat, our character is refined through trials. In the desert, we learn patience, perseverance, and humility. We confront our weaknesses and discover strengths we didn't know we had. These qualities are essential for the greater work God has planned for us. Clarity of purpose. In the busyness of life, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. The desert strips away distractions and forces us to focus on what's important. It's in the quiet and stillness of the desert that we often hear God's voice most clearly. He uses this time to reveal His plans and purposes for our lives, preparing us for the work ahead. Spiritual growth. The desert is a place of deep spiritual growth. It's where we learn to pray with greater sincerity, worship with greater passion, and seek God with greater intensity. When everything else is taken away, we realize that our relationship with God is the most important thing. This spiritual growth is essential for the greater work God has called us to do. The greater work ahead. Your desert experience is not the end of the story. It's the preparation for what's to come. Just as the Israelites' desert journey led them to the Promised Land, and just as Jesus' time in the wilderness prepared Him for His ministry, your desert experience is preparing you for greater work. This work may not always look glamorous or grandiose, but it will be significant in the eyes of God. Perhaps God is preparing you to lead others through their own deserts, using your experiences to offer hope and encouragement. Maybe He's equipping you to serve in a way that requires greater faith, resilience, and compassion. Or perhaps He's simply drawing you closer to Himself so that you can walk in deeper intimacy with Him. The greater work God has for you may not always be easy, but it will be purposeful. And the lessons you learn in the desert will be the foundation upon which this work is built. You will look back and see how every trial, every tear, and every moment of waiting was part of God's perfect plan to prepare you. Trust God in the process. While the desert can be a difficult place to be, it's important to remember that you are not alone. God is with you every step of the way, even when you can't see or feel Him. He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail for your good and His glory. Trusting Him in the process is key to emerging from the desert stronger and more prepared for the greater work ahead. It's also important to embrace the desert as a season of growth rather than resisting it. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is God teaching me in this season?" Shift your perspective from seeing the desert as a place of punishment to seeing it as a place of preparation. This shift in mindset can make all the difference in how you navigate the challenges you face. If you're in the midst of a desert experience, take heart. This season is not forever, and it is not without purpose. God is using this time to prepare you for greater work, to shape you into the person He created you to be, and to draw you closer to Himself. The lessons you learn in the desert will stay with you for a lifetime, equipping you to fulfill your God-given purpose. As you walk through this season, hold on to the promise that God is with you and that He is working all things together for your good. The desert may be barren, but it is also a place of incredible potential. It's where seeds of faith are planted, roots of character grow deep, and the foundation for future fruitfulness is laid. Your desert experience is not the end. It's the beginning of something greater. Trust the process, lean into God's presence, and know that He is preparing you for a work that will bring glory to His name and blessing to others.